everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Renee here at Simply Renee, and welcome to Sunday Reads with Renee. For this segment, I'm going to be doing a double book review of the Bill of Rights by Carol Berkin and 1789, George Washington and the Founders Create America by Thomas Allen. And these are two nonfiction books that I wanted to do in lead up to the 250th anniversary of America's founding and in lead up with the Revolutionary War and how that ties in, because despite battling this war and winning it, we still had a country to create, and it took a long time, as well as a lot of back and forth and disagreements and agreements to really form the nation. And these two books laid out, I feel, pretty well. But before I begin with these book reviews, I want everyone to know that I will be revealing plot details, therefore spoilers are ahead. And I'll also be using alternative words and phrases because of YouTube rules and regulations. I'm also feeling a little under the weather at the time of this filming, and so this might be a shorter than normal double book review compared to others. So just want to put that out there just in case you see a little bit something shorter than normal. And I thank you so much for tuning in, as always, of course. The Bill of Rights by Carol Berkin. Published in 2015, this nonfiction work tells a little bit more information about how the Bill of Rights was such an important implementation into the Constitution, but almost didn't make it. And that's mainly because of all the discussions that were happening between Federalists and Anti-Federalists about what this new nation would look like. How do we get this Constitution ratified, or should we not have this Constitution? How these 13 different states that make up our new nation are having different ideas about things, and you have two states holding out to the very end, which are North Carolina and Rhode Island. But also it's asking a very important question. Do we give power and authority to the general states, or do we give it to the entire federal government? As such, there's a lot of discussions going on, some back and forth, because you have Federalists who want the Constitution ratified because they fear if it doesn't, then they're going to have problems again. Or you have the anti-federalists who don't want a constitution and feel that local governments are better. Why do we need a constitution in order to say anything about this new nation and power and authority and who has what? So there's a lot of different types of discussions happening and how everything gets formed in this new nation that so many patriots worked hard to really create. And there was a lot of violence and bloodshed that came with that. And now they're trying to figure out what they need to do to prove themselves as this new nation, this new global international power that has just come up. And as a result, you have James Madison coming in, who's putting forth the Bill of Rights. Now, he cares about the Bill of Rights. He thinks it's very important to implement this in order to get this Constitution ratified, and uses it as a political strategy. And this is what Carol Berkin really argues, is that the Bill of Rights wasn't something that we necessarily had a thought process or complete care about 100% at that point in time, but it was used as an important stepping stone in order to make sure we had the Constitution ratified. So they put it through here as a political strategy. So it's an interesting book that goes into the different details about the Bill of Rights, how it was formed and created to really protect people's liberties and rights, but it also discusses the flaws in it, the downsides to the Bill of Rights, and how it doesn't include everyone just because we're having all these different things about caring for freedom and liberty, but we also are not including everyone in there, such as women and people of color. But it also does discuss the importance of the Bill of Rights really being implemented in there, because it's become such a huge, important part of the Constitution and our general rights in America. So it's interesting to go back into this book to see just what they were talking about at the beginnings of writing up the Constitution, and discovering that we didn't always get it right completely, and we had these struggles to really form this nation, but also saying, yes, we need to ratify the Constitution. We can put amendments later. So it's an interesting book that is a little bit short, of course. It's under 300 pages, but nonetheless, it's a good one because it does give you a lot of thought-provoking discussion, a lot of things to think about. And Carol Berkin is always an entertaining storyteller. When I saw a lecture of hers back in March 2026, and there was a Q&A for her, she discussed how when she was writing published material nonfiction work, she really was focused more on trying to get things a little bit shorter and to the point, because it tended to sell a little bit better, but it also helped people get through a thought-provoking process, discuss a few things as well. And she really, I think, nails it here in this well-written nonfiction work, the Bill of Rights, where it does talk about how this important document that is so vital and important even now in 2026 is something that almost never was without the hard-fought political strategy to really push it through to get the Constitution ratified and work everything out in the aftermath. So this is one that I do recommend if you're curious to know more about the implementation of the Bill of Rights, but I also think it's good to give you more of a thought-provoking process to do your own research, look into it a little bit more as well, because I think it is an interesting look at how the nation was starting to get created, what people were thinking about, the different discussions to form this new nation. So I do recommend. The next book review is 1789, George Washington and the Founders Create America, published in 2024 and written by Thomas Allen. Now, this book is more of a basic overview of a very pivotal year in American history, which was 1789. In this year, a lot of things were happening at historic levels after we've just declared our independence. We're now ratifying the Constitution that year. We're holding the first presidential election. New political parties are emerging, and we're also having the first legislative Congress here in this new nation. So this is a very pivotal year, and it's a very important one because this is really where America now has to prove itself as this new nation that is capable of being able to hold its own against the entire global world power, and it can also really get itself together after hard-fought won independence and all the violence and bloodshed we went through, as well as all the discussions that they had up until that point in 1789 in putting the Constitution together as well as ratifying it. So this is more of a basic overview that is well written to really discuss everything that happened that year as well as the lead up to it and the aftermath. And it does go into more talks about famous, well-known founders such as George Washington and John Adams, but it also goes into more lesser-known individuals such as Colonel Humphreys, who successfully enlisted Black people into the Continental Army as well as draft Washington's inaugural address. So I think these are very good information we're getting out of this book in order to understand more about 1789 and everything about it and how much of a pivotal moment in history this was. At the same time, it also goes into details about some of the downsides and the struggles, the frequent discussions we're having in the aftermath of the revolution about how to not just ratify this constitution, but what type of political parties are we putting in? Should we be separate from the British politics? Should we put things together in terms of a presidential election, and how do we do that? And how do we get the legislation going now that we've created this new nation and formed our new government? So these are all very important things to discuss and read about, and I think Allen does do it pretty well. And I also think we have a little bit more information coming out in this book too that does get me a little bit more thought-provoking process, such as how America's rising as this new global power, all eyes are on us, and we're trying to be separate from England, but we're also clashing with them over the things that are changing in that country in terms of enslavement, and also how we as a new power have to form these foreign alliances with everybody and try to really work on that, but we're also having these clashes internally and outside of it as well. So there's a lot of interesting information that comes up in this book 1789, but it's also something that's nothing completely new to me, because even though I'm not as familiar with 1789 and the importance of this year as I should be, it is something that does give me a little bit more thought process. Some of the things that did come out didn't really surprise me, but it did make me want to do some more research and some more deep dives as well. So I think it is pretty interesting. If you'd like to do your own research on that, I do recommend that. So this is a book that I do think is well written, and I do think has a lot of interesting information and overview perspective of that pivotal year in 1789. But other than that, I do think if you want to look at other things outside of it that are tied in but give a little more detail, you might want to find some other books about it and some more information and articles as well. But nonetheless, this is a good place to start if you just want a good overview of that year in particular and what it means to American history, as well as the creation of a new nation and how we're getting to that point and the start of a beginnings that lasts over 200 years. And this concludes my double book review of the Bill of Rights and 1789, George Washington and the Founders Create America. And I liked the Bill of Rights more. I thought it was more well written and to the point, whereas 1789 was a little bit more of a good overview, but it didn't really have a lot of to the point quick moments as I felt with Bill of Rights, where that was a little bit more engaging compared to 1789. But I do recommend these books nonetheless because I do think it is good in a way to create an interesting perspective and understanding of American history and the founding of the nation itself and how this was created with the Constitution, because we've again just fought the war, we've handled all this conflict. Now we got to figure out where we go from here in creating this nation and how we do it. So these books are ones that I do recommend overall, but let me know what you think. Have you read these books? Do you agree with me, not agree with me? Are there other books that you feel can give a little bit more information or some additional information? Let me know in the comments below. I welcome all discussions as always. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I thank you so much as well because I'm a little bit under the weather, so this double book review may have been different from the ones I've done before, but I'm hoping to feel a little bit better along the way. I got my water here, and I think it's just because of the heat wave. It's made me feel a little bit under the weather, so stay cool and hydrated during this time. And also, thank you so much for always tuning in as well. I appreciate everyone who comes to this channel and watches my videos, likes, shares, comments, subscribes, clicks the notification bell. And I truly appreciate it always, and I look forward to bringing so much more content in the future as well. I thank you again so much for tuning in. I'll be back on Wednesday with a regular video, Friday with a food video, and Sunday with a Sunday Reads video. But this time it's going to be on the best books I've read so far this year, which I'm looking forward to. I feel I've read some great books this year, and I'm looking forward to sharing them with you and getting your opinions on that. But for now, I just want to say again, thank you so much for tuning in as always. And please be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell. And I'll see you next time. Bye.